ABSL Summit. Transform to thrive.
ESG. Some say ESG, some said, and we've heard it already, CSRD, NFRD, GRI, UNGC, UN SDG. Sometimes it makes me feel we're going to need a PhD to comprehend it all, and certainly we're going to touch the subject. And it takes no harm to have a law and administration degree to comprehend it all. Hence, I'm really glad to be able to be here together with two splendid guests. And allow me to introduce the Deputy Mayor of Capital City of Warsaw, who has been holding his role since 2021, but has vast experience when it comes to both EU legislation in the fields of public education, as well as procurement, but understood as procurement that is in public sector, and as well as management of the EU funds. Please welcome with me Tomasz Bratek. And also joining from nowhere else than the noble organization of United Nations, someone who's, I would say, is a living and walking example that work is not a place anymore. Someone who not only shares his roots between New York and Warsaw, but somebody who's been with United Nations for more than 20 years, and it's really embedded in what UNGC stands for today, so United Nations Global Compact. Please welcome the representative and senior executive director of UNGC, Kamil Wyszkowski. So, gentlemen, it is a pleasure to welcome you here, but despite ESG being in a spotlight, especially for large corporations, evolving from Kyoto Protocol, evolving towards NFRD, this non-financial reporting directive, it's rarely connected with cities. It's more with corporations, with large companies. However, I did my homework, I did a little bit of digging, and I found that far in the past, in the year 2001, actually one city called Melbourne came up with an initiative that was very much together with the United Nations and started a program that was called UNGC Cities Program. And over to you, Kamil. Could you explain to us how this initiative looked like? Actually, what are the initiatives of UNGC today that are reinforcing the development of cities in the environment of ESG?
Okay, but let me start with one remark, because everyone here most probably is familiar with ESG, but from our perspective, ESG is a really old idea. It's good to mention that we, as UN, we developed that idea more than 20 years ago, together with emissions trading system, so-called ETS. And that was the initial plan, to combine ETS together with ESG, and that was our plan to invite the European Commission to have that two mechanism simply acting together. Of course, as you know, with ETS, we achieved success, so it's within European Union policies since 2004. With ESG, not really. So we have to wait for Franz Timmermans, and very important for us meeting 2020, so 4 years ago, where we simply encouraging him that maybe it's a good idea to come back to the old idea to have ESG as a platform, as a idea which could move forward better management of emissions and better management of innovations within Europe, within European states. So that's the first remark. The other one, which is of course linked with cities, it's good to know that we have 50% of the population living in cities, but in Europe, that's 75%. So in European continent, we have the highest percentage of people living in cities, and from UN Habitat perspective, so that's UN Habitat that's a UN agency which is dealing with cities and communities. So simply based on that, we have so-called urban agenda as a policy, as a UN policy. We are expecting that other continents will achieve the same percentage. Why? Because we know that in Europe we have all rich states. So, of course, with some exceptions like Balkans or Ukraine now, or Belarus. But in general, that's the level we are expecting for the whole humanity in next decades. Cities, that's our future, and of course, we have to properly manage them. Some examples: Melbourne. So that's one of city which indeed has very good model how to develop, how to grow, and how to properly manage quality of life. The other example, Tokyo, huge megalopolis. For most probably, you know that we have 38 million people living in Tokyo and suburbs, so that's the whole Poland in one place. And of course, we have other examples like Mogadishu or Delhi or Hyderabad in India, which are really badly managed. So we have the biggest slums area there. The same with Bangkok, really nice tourist place, but most probably not. Most of tourists are never. They simply never have a chance to take a look slums in Bangkok. They are one of the biggest in that part of Asia. They are simply hidden from our perspective. In Melbourne, what is really unique and what you learn from that city, that model was proposed to United Nations as a potentially for replication, well managed, well prepared platform, and we used that 20 years ago. And based on Melbourne model as an academic concept, we now have urban agenda managed by UN Habitat. So from Melbourne we started 20 years ago. Now we have relatively well developed model we are implementing in various places, also in Warsaw, which is a part of that scheme, by the way.
That is really great. Me being a personal fan of UNGC, and naturally the company I represent is a signee of the treaty, and it's genuinely interesting, and it's generally rare to have a representative of our capital city of Warsaw. So it would be really fascinating to hear what kind of initiatives can we expect from the state of Warsaw, developing towards more of a green city, developing its commitment towards the ESG, let me say, landscape that we are all living with.
Thank you for this question. Actually, we are talking while speaking about initiatives which are supporting ESG in practice. We are all thinking in our strategies, in our visions about city which is friendly for its inhabitants. Simply, city is for people who are living in this city. This is our main goal, to create the city which is friendly. What does it mean? It means that you have to reach certain standards of life, to provide certain qualities, certain services at a given level, which are well received by its inhabitants. So all the vision of the development of Warsaw is included in our Warsaw 2030 strategy, which actually describes vision, describes goals and operational aims which we should achieve. And as you have mentioned, all of them are very much related to ESG, especially when we are speaking, first of all, in our Green Vision of Warsaw. Green Vision of Warsaw creates the platform for the development of initiatives which allows us to reduce CO2 emission by 2030 by 40%. This is quite ambitious, but we are already sure that we will manage. And of course, we have more, let's say, ambition aim to, by 2050, to achieve climate neutrality, which actually is based on different programs, how to manage. The most important for us was joining the Green Cities Initiative, which we, through this, we developed our policies and our standards for the city. For example, this kind of standards is the Warsaw Green Building Standard. So all the new buildings in Warsaw have to reach not only, let's say, the standards, technical standards which are described in law, but also to have this kind of solution, which allows them to be modern, to be good for inhabitants, and to provide the space for the development of city infrastructure. We are talking also, and we have to be very fair enough, about borders or limits of urbanization. It means that city has certain limits where it can provide water, electricity, public transportation, schools, preschools, etc. So that's why we are saying that the development of the city is not without limits. We have certain limits, and we are trying to set this fair enough for everybody, for investors, but first of all for our inhabitants. Our strategies and policies inside of the city of equal treatment, for example. This is also for us very important, that this city is open for everybody without any prejudices, without speaking of good treatment, without defining any borders between people. And also, we do believe very much this social diversity plan will allow us to create space for international development. It means we welcome not only Polish, but we welcome all Europeans, all people from all over the world, which is now de facto, it's happening because Poland, Warsaw in Poland became a hub, while speaking help for Ukraine, not only immigrants, but also different agendas which moved to Warsaw. So these are only few which I could mention. We put a lot of priority for public transportation. By the way, we have the cheapest and the best. I believe Krakow has equally good, but we have better. And the cheapest transportation, which actually, this is the plan for future. This is the plan for future because we are limiting pollution inside of the city, this is the part of our new vision of the center of Warsaw, and helping also people to be mobilized from every place, every suburb of Warsaw.
So naturally, as we all know, and we can easily read when you buy yourself a ticket to fly, and if you would like to fly between Warsaw and Brussels, I'm sure you're going to take a wild guess how many kilograms of carbon dioxide the actual 150-seater is emitting, and for a person like myself, it would be roughly 80 to 85 kilograms of CO2, which is fascinating, and naturally public transportation is a great example how to impact the E part of ESG, and it also brings me back to legislation passed very recently in France and municipality of Paris, where every large-scale building such as parking needs to be equipped with a photovoltaic installation on the top of it that is allowing it to be, let's say, self-sustainable.
That's true. We also have, I forgot to say it, but we already introduced the project where all public buildings, if they have possibility, if they are not under conservative protection, etc. But all of them, schools, hospitals, all the municipality belonging buildings, they have planned the photovoltaics on the roofs, as well as our city-run companies, like, for example, the biggest transportation company, which is Warsaw Metro, for example.
It's been a great learning, Tomasz. So we had a really great meeting yesterday at our ESG club held by Agnieszka Orłowska, and I have to say that one conclusion, if I could bring one, summarizing these discussions, is that we miss people who can actually comprehend and follow all the new regulations. Everything that is, let's say, being thought through by the, not only by UN, but by the EU Commission, but various organizations. And the key question is how education, since we are all somehow connected with the universities, how can we see either city of Warsaw or other cities, whether UNGC supporting these educational programs? Do you have a solution for that, Kamil?
Of course, yes. Education is a key because we have always battle between stupidity and someone who is really wise. And of course, to be stupid is much easier, and maybe even the life is better. Who knows? But of course. To educate properly, that's a challenge, not only when you are talking about educational system, which is managed by the government at the federal level, but also locally by city. And of course, we have many problems how to train properly teachers with brand new knowledge, which sometimes is accessible from the net. Very often, pupils, students knows much more than teachers, but that's the other challenge. Let's skip it for a moment. But coming back to the point you mentioned about cities and how to better manage them using education. Imagine for a moment global energy grid. That's a task for all of you. Imagine for a moment one huge planetary energy grid. Our main challenge as UN system is to escape from planetary risk, which is called climate change. And imagine that we as humans, we are totally addicted from energy based on fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas. So imagine now that energy, which is deeply needed also for cities, cities around the globe are consuming from 60 to 80% of energy. That energy is produced in 81% from fossil fuels, 81%. Just 7% from nuclear energy, and only 12% from green sources. That's why this addiction is so huge, and that's why we need global climate industrial revolution to change that completely. So in fact, we need to have immediately, very soon, that's why we are calling it climate revolution, 80% from green sources, 15% from nuclear energy, and 5% maximum from fossil fuels. How to make this happen? Based on education. So we need to train engineers, people who are simply planning their future career in the area which we are calling green technology, or future bankers who are planning to have their careers within sustainable finance, to simply have a chance to finance that whole climate industrial revolution. By the way, we have funding for that. We even know, based on SDG 7 progress report, that's a report which is properly showing in which state how much we have to spend to achieve our sustainable development goals, especially within goal number 7, which is fully focused on energy, this energy transformation. We need to have $380 billion per year. It's not much. Just for information, every year we are spending for military purposes $2,380 billion. So in fact, we need 18% of the budget for military to save the planet from the climate change. It's as simple as that. How to educate about that paradox? That's a challenge for all of us. The other example you mentioned, water management. We have rainy day today. So again, how to build a link between rainy day and water storage mechanism. For instance, today Krakow is losing water from the sky. All this water goes to Vistula River. We should store that water. It's millions of cubic meters, and use it in 2, 3, 4 weeks from now, when we will have sunny day.
And Warsaw is a very good example of that, because we have just built 3 biggest storages for rainwater.
Precisely, that was my intention to ask you to tell a bit more about that, because Warsaw is really good with water management. Today in the morning, I have a chance to speak just after President Michalski visit here. I have a chance to meet with him in the city hall, and we discussed precisely that thing. That Krakow is really bad with water management. And in fact, Krakow is also really bad with other things. In Krakow, we have just 7% of green areas. Sorry, people from Krakow, yeah? It's really bad indicator. Warsaw, when we are comparing Warsaw, it's like 30% or more, yeah?
It's the biggest, one of the biggest areas of greens in Europe, in European capitals, among European
Why?
capitals.
Because Warsaw is really big city. Imagine that it's 5 times bigger than Paris. And of course, that's an advantage because all Warsaw districts are divided. Between them, we have green areas. And that advantage should be properly used for proper city management. And that's why we need Melbourne model, green funding, and other solutions, also regulatory solutions to help Krakow to achieve their percentage, at least in water management and of course, green areas. And of course, support cities like Warsaw and much smaller cities to prepare them for heat waves, which for sure will come because of climate change as a global threat.
Yeah, sure. And if I can add something only while speaking about the education, because I do believe I also come from the educational field, the education is the most important on all levels of our life in all the groups of the society. This is a lifelong learning process, which we have to start, of course, from the scratch, from the school, from the preschool, even quicker, better. And it must go through the different generation. But what I do believe very much is our, and I presume it might be very successful, the young generation of young engineers, which have different life goals. They are looking on life from the different side. They are getting to the unexpected moments in their research careers. They are developing something what was unbelievable a few years ago. So I do believe it might happen, but increasing awareness and sharing between kids and parents, even older generation, is the key factor. And I have to say that we don't have it at the moment at the municipality level. Our university is just starting courses on that. It must be the common effort, I think, from different actors in this field. But of course, it will happen because it must happen. This awareness must come to our life, and it will be part of our life. And what Kamil mentioned, nobody really believed in Warsaw a few years ago that our expectation from developers, investors, will be when you are building new buildings, obligatory small park must be included. It was nobody really could expect it, even 10 years ago. But now we are doing that, and we are also trying to eliminate cement, concrete from our surroundings near our buildings to also increase the possible rain absorption, as what you have mentioned, also in our closer neighborhood. And it works. It really works.
It actually brings me to another question very nicely, and I'll be a devil's advocate. We've got representatives of business here, and my company, Hitachi Energy, is at the avant-garde, let's say, of transformation to thrive when it comes to energy sector. But naturally, it comes at a huge cost, right? So we do educate our people when it comes to both E, S, and G. 90% of people that are our staff already is properly trained when it comes to ethics, integrity, and environment. That is our modus operandi, license to operate. But we ask ourselves a question, can we actually, and knowing that you have experience also in public procurement, but can we count as companies to be somehow benefited from the fact that we are so far ahead compared to our competition?
This is a very good question. Actually, this is, I think, key question, because we are talking about very delicate sphere. It means competition between companies, and not only within the European Union, but the global competition, and how we will promote it in our legal system. And I do agree 100% that we have to promote those companies and put priority, even if it will be more expensive, but those who are really in line with our values. Because we did not really promote our values in the past. For sure, the most tricky thing is how we will introduce it in our procurement law. This is, I already participated in 100 different procedures where competitors were killing each other for 1 point. Yeah, 1 point. And here we are talking about really give preferences for those working with our values. I think at the level of the European Union, we can agree on such a regulation, but I'm deeply concerned how it works globally. Maybe Kamil has more idea how we could do it.
Unfortunately, I have 17 seconds, but one important thing. Please take a look on the new paradigm which is ahead of us. Every single company has to compete using three factors. One is price, second one is quality, and third one emissions. If the company is really well prepared to compete on that third paradigm, for sure will win. For instance, based on UN public procurement mechanism. We are spending every year almost $30 billion. It's so-called United Nations procurement system for various services and products. And for instance, I just came back from Ukraine. I'm responsible for UNOPS, not only for UN Global Compact. UNOPS is that part of UN which is rebuilding country after humanitarian crisis like earthquake or war, as we have in Ukraine. And imagine the city of Kharkov or Mariupol, Odessa, and other places which are simply badly damaged. I just came back from 11 places on war zone where simply was badly hit by Russian missiles. They are trying to paralyze Ukrainian energy sector. So of course we have to rebuild that energy grid for Ukraine. And of course, we have to rebuild that energy grid, not using, let's say, old-fashioned way, but to build in line with Paris Agreement, simply to make Ukraine even more modern state than before the war. That's our idea behind that tragedy of war. And that's why, using UN public procurement, our plan is to choose technology which is top, the best one, the best accessible, and provide later to Ukraine having that state in much better condition than before that bloody war.
Perfect. I mean, it is a light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that we are going to follow the same directives, and actually, as some people here sitting working in procurement, they know that according to the reporting standard, we must factor in that criteria when it comes to supplier selection. So looking forward, gentlemen, we are over when it comes to time. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing, and looking forward to meeting you somewhere at the platform as ABSL in the future. Thanks for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.